Hey, you're watching the Livestream Lounge at BevNet Live, Winter 2016. I'm Ray Latif, I'm the managing editor of BevNet, and our first guest of the day is Bill Lange, the VP of Marketing for C-Fresh, a division at Campbell Soup Company. How are you, Bill?
I'm great, thanks. How are you today, Ray?
Oh, I just dropped my phone, so I'm fine. You know, things are going well. It's just all my notes, no big deal.
Time to Audible, I guess, huh?
So, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I love this time of year.
Yeah, this is like your, I don't know, how many BevNet Lives have you been coming to at this point?
I think 6 or 7.
Wow.
Have there been that many?
Sure.
Yeah, I lost count.
Yeah, I think we've had at least, I don't know, I'm going to go with 15. Is that right? Something like that.
That could be.
Yeah,
That could be. Yeah.
So, C-Fresh is a division of Campbell Soup Company. For our audience or those in our audience who are not familiar with that division, what do you guys do?
So we're located right here in Santa Monica. I oversee the Bolthouse Farms businesses, which we've got fresh juices and smoothies, we've got cold pressed juice, we've got dressings, but then also within C-Fresh we have a garden fresh gourmet business, which is fresh salsas and hummus, and then we've got an innovation unit as well that's coming up with kind of new ways to take products that are in the center of the store and bring them out to the perimeter in a fresher offering for consumers.
Bring them out to the perimeter in grocery, natural. Are you looking at
C-stores? In terms of produce, in terms of deli, in terms of areas of the grocery store, but obviously, you know, it can't just be about grocery. It's got to be expanding into other channels as well.
So how hard are you pushing at this point into other channels?
It hasn't been our core in the past, but we see that in order to grow as a brand and a company and really achieve what we want to for the Campbell Soup Company, we need to start going alternate channels. So that's going to be a much bigger focus for us going forward.
Okay, so let's talk about your role with C-Fresh and Bolthouse Farms. It's called C-Fresh, so there's a big focus on that. How do you communicate? How do you best communicate sort of the freshness of what you sell to consumers out there?
You know, right now C-Fresh isn't a consumer-facing name. It's really something that we use in the industry. Right now, the brands like Bolthouse or Garden Fresh Gourmet, those are the ones that are consumer-facing. For us, I think we've done a good job just based on the products we have and where we distribute them of presenting ourselves as fresh, but we can always do a better job in terms of communication as well as the innovation and making sure that the benefits we can bring to the world are evident.
Yeah. Last year was a big product launch for C-Fresh and for Bolthouse Farms with the 1915 cold pressed juice line. Really well received, great distribution the first year. What do you think was the sort of way that C-Fresh and Campbell Soup were able to sort of find their way through a busy and cluttered cold pressed juice category?
Yeah, that whole thing, that launch took place before I got there, so I can't take any credit whatsoever.
Go ahead, you can.
I can talk about them with complete independence. But I think what they did an amazing job of is really innovating in a rather quick timeline and getting the product to market quickly. I think, in hindsight, what we've looked at it is it's gotten early success across a number of retailers on a national landscape, but we probably launched it a little bit like a big company would in some ways, and so now we're taking a look again and going back and almost thinking like the brands that have been coming here for years and years, how might they launch it and start to think more like a challenger brand, less so like a medium or large-scale company.
What kind of innovation, what kind of changes in marketing and positioning do you think we're going to see in 2017?
For us specifically, it's all about dialing up the credentials that are already there. So we launched with cold press as kind of the lead message, but I know you've talked about a lot. Cold press isn't necessarily understood by consumers. HPP isn't necessarily understood. What we found from recent research is it's all about organic. And if you look at kind of even the cold press landscape in produce right now, there are a number of brands out there that are not 100% organic. So we think we really need to lean into that. And then it's dialing up the other credentials in terms of the types of ingredients we use, the nutrition profile. There's a lot of products out there that list a lot of ingredients, but it's a lot of pixie dust, right? And there isn't content, really meaningful levels of those ingredients. So it's about how do we use fewer ingredients that are authentic and transparent to consumers that also deliver on the nutrition profile they want. It's not just about apple juice.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things about organic for me is that it just has this aura of health. It has this aura of better for you. I guess, do consumers really need to know the difference and what are the differences between organic ingredients and non-organic ingredients? Do they care, or is it just that they make it, it just feels like a better a better ingredient, better formulation for them?
I think it's, especially when you're talking about premium categories, it's another reason to believe and therefore give consumers a willingness to pay what they're paying. There's a lot of other things that go into it for sure, and I've worked on other businesses that weren't organic and did just fine. For us, though, that's really an indication for consumers. That's the first point of what they're looking for when they're making a decision, at least within our current produce category.
So 1915 is your primary organic vehicle. In terms of the overall Bolthouse brands, I mean, are we going to see more innovation with organic?
Absolutely. And I think I'd say in terms of overall C-Fresh, that's definitely an area that we know is driving a lot of the growth. So all of our C-Fresh platforms will be looking at that. On the dressing side especially, so I oversee the Bolthouse Farms dressings business, which is pretty small and obviously not something we talk about at BevNet.
Not necessarily drinkable dressing, maybe. I don't know.
You could, yeah, depending on your mood. But we're pushing into that type of thing rather quickly. If you covered the dressings category, you might hear some news pretty soon. But we see that as a space that we think we should be playing as well.
I got to ask you about soups because we've seen a lot of innovation with drinkable soups. Maybe not a lot, but we've seen some interesting players get into the mix. General Mills with Theo Gazpacho. We saw the launch of Zupa Noma and a few other brands. I even heard we talked to the CEO of Blueprint. Of Hain Celestial at BevNet Live in New York, and he said that the Blueprint brand might even make its way into soup. Where does Bolthouse?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this, primarily because that's somebody else's job function, so I don't want to overstep my bounds.
Sure.
But I think outside of my company, I think that's we have beverages, we have great soups. That seems like a very relevant growth opportunity for the industry. So I'm sure someone smarter than me is taking a look at it.
Okay, we'll read between the lines on that one. Bill, in terms of your experience, you've been with a lot of different companies, and I got to know you through Zico, where you were the VP of marketing over there, and the brand was sold to Coca-Cola in 2013, I believe, and we have a lot of early stage entrepreneurs here, and Zico at one point was an early small brand. How do you navigate your way through marketing and marketing strategy with sort of limited resources, a limited budget, but like this great vision, this great product like Zico had?
It's funny. When I joined Zico, I came from big CPG. So I started my career at Nestle for 8 years. And I think one of the things that really interested Mark Rampolla when we first sat down was that I had that big company experience. Now, as I talk to a lot of either entrepreneurs or even medium-sized companies that are looking for marketing people, a lot of them don't want to go to big company. There are so many people that have grown up in this industry with brands that are at your shows that there is a ton of talent that may have some big company, but they've really got some great streetwise experience and street smarts that come from growing from a very early stage. So I really think that, it depends on the brand and the category, but I really think what you learn in some of these early stage growth companies, in terms of being resourceful, in terms of the power of field marketing, in terms of amplifying everything you do through relationships and influencers, and I think that really is a fundamental way of going to market. That you're not only seeing the companies here, the smaller size companies doing, but really the big companies as well are starting to look kind of towards this universe as a way to make their teams better, their skills
For sure,
better.
And they're also looking at the ways these smaller companies are using modern marketing tools, social media and otherwise, to really get their brand in front of millennials and other younger folks. We only got a little bit of time left. In terms of modern marketing, what are you doing? What are you looking at as a way to attract more younger consumers to your products?
For 1915, I mentioned we launched it as a large company might and didn't use a lot of the non-traditional. This past few months, we've been doing a field marketing test with it, and that to me is just kind of reinforced, and it's given us a platform to show the organization the power of what a challenger startup brand might do. So you'll see a lot more of, call it the Zico way of marketing, or Red Bull, or all the others that have used it since for our brands going forward.
All right, last word. Like I said, you've been doing this for a long time. The evolution of the beverage business has been pretty amazing over the last few years. What surprised you the most?
It's interesting just how it constantly reinvents itself. I started way back in the day. I was working on Juicy Juice, and I told my kids 100% juice, this is as healthy as it gets. And then it continues to evolve. And what's exciting for me is seeing that you've got your cold pressed juice and your organic now, but now you've got this whole other wave of lower sugar, lower calorie functional drinks. You look at the success recently of Kavita being acquired by Pepsi. You look at Bai. I really see this refreshing, better for you functional platforms being the growth wave of the short-term future. Who knows what it'll be further out, but I think it's exciting that it constantly evolves.
Great stuff, Bill. I always love talking to you. I try to grab you anytime I
Likewise.
can, and maybe we'll have a drink later tonight. How about that?
I would love that.
Outstanding.
Yeah.